Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Before starting the video, please subscribe and keep watching for more details videos. Coco Gauff and Jessica Pegula both send messages to Amanda Anisimova after her defeat in the US Open final. For Amanda Anisimova, it proved to be a second, cruel dose of heartbreak in a matter of months at the US Open. Iga Swiatek hailed Anisimova as she stood raising the Wimbledon trophy aloft, fresh from thrashing the American 6-0 in her first Grand Slam final. On Saturday night, the new world number 4 was in tears once again, as Aryna Sabalenka was this time praising Anisimova despite another final defeat. Anisimova was hailed for bouncing back to beat Swiatek at the quarterfinal stage in New York, and she was also brilliant in a win over Naomi Osaka in the semifinal. Sabalenka could actually act as motivation for Anisimova as the year reaches the closing stages, and the United States native shouldn't be too downbeat. Amanda Anisimova reacts on Instagram after US Open final performance. Anisimova will aim to get over the line at a Grand Slam next year, but for now, it's a time to make positive reflections on the last few months. Nobody predicted that the American would reach the final at both Wimbledon and the US Open, and this has to be viewed as progress in the career of Anisimova. After the dust settled on the women's final at the US Open, Anisimova took to Instagram to share her feelings after losing to Sabalenka. She posted, "This sport. Hopefully I'll be able to see the positive soon. Thanks for all the love." Coco Gauff and Jessica Pegula send messages to Anisimova. Pegula might feel just as heartbroken as Anisimova right now, as she led Sabalenka by a set to love in the semi-final before eventually being beaten. Still, there's a lot to take from the tournament for Pegula, and she is another American player hoping to one day get over the line to win a Grand Slam. She posted on Anisimova's post on Instagram, "You were amazing." Gauff has won the US Open before but lost in round 4 to Naomi Osaka at this year's event. The youngster won the French Open this year, and that does represent a positive year for the United States player. She simply posted 3 love heart emojis on Anisimova's post, and it would appear that her compatriots have got her back on the back of this latest heartbreaking defeat. Coco Gauff and Jessica Pegula send messages to Amanda Anisimova after her US Open final defeat. Prologue. The night the lights dimmed. The 2025 US Open women's singles final was always destined to be a storm of emotions. Amanda Anisimova, once hailed as American tennis's lost prodigy, had clawed her way back from the shadows of injury, personal loss, and inconsistency. For 2 weeks in New York, she played as if she were carried by destiny, defeating Naomi Osaka, stunning Iga Swiatek, outlasting Jessica Pegula, and then surviving Coco Gauff in a semi-final thriller. Yet, in the final, the weight of history pressed harder than her opponent's shots. Aryna Sabalenka, all muscle and fury, stood across the net and tore through the night with the kind of merciless power that only Sabalenka can summon. Anisimova fought, she swung, she bled, but in the end, she bowed, runner-up at the US Open. When the match ended, Amanda sat on her bench, towel over her head, eyes hidden from the camera lenses. Her dreams had come close enough to touch, only to slip away. That was when 2 women, watching from opposite corners of the tennis world, decided to step forward, not as rivals, but as sisters of the sport. Coco Gauff and Jessica Pegula, each with their own story of heartbreak and resilience, sent messages that carried more weight than any trophy. Chapter 1. Coco's Reflection, a Mirror of Youth. Coco Gauff had been there herself. She knew what it meant to stand on Arthur Ashe Stadium, expected to deliver, only to collapse under the magnitude of it all. In 2022, she had lost her first Grand Slam final at Roland Garros to Iga Swiatek. The memory still stung. So, when she saw Anisimova's tear-streaked face during the trophy ceremony, Gauff's heart tightened. She picked up her phone that night and wrote carefully, not wanting to sound like a coach, not wanting to sound like a fan. She wanted Amanda to hear the words as if they came from someone who understood. "Amanda, you're not just a finalist, you're proof. Proof that no matter how heavy the road gets, there's always another chapter. I know what tonight feels like. It feels like the world slipped away. But believe me, one day soon, you'll wake up and realize this was only the beginning.
Keep your head high.
You belong here. Coco had written from her hotel room, still aching from her own semi-final loss. She hadn't won, but her fight had been worth something if it reminded Amanda that defeat doesn't erase greatness. Chapter 2. Pegula's Perspective, Wisdom in Defeat. Jessica Pegula, at 31, carried the wisdom of someone who had weathered enough losses to understand their strange gifts. She had fallen in quarterfinals more times than she wanted to count. She had heard the whispers, too old, not good enough, forever the supporting act. But she also knew that resilience, not victory, built champions. When Pegula watched Amanda crumble against Sabalenka, she didn't see failure. She saw a younger version of herself, pressured, doubted, yet still brave enough to stand on the grandest stage in tennis. Her message was short but steady. Amanda, finals are not endings. They're beginnings you earn. Tonight doesn't make you less. It makes you more. Remember that every time you step on court, you've already beaten 1,000 versions of yourself that once doubted you. I'm proud of you. We all are. For Pegula, it wasn't about comfort. It was about reminding Amanda that survival itself is victory. And in Pegula's world, survival had always been the key to rising again. Chapter 3. Amanda's Silence. Amanda Anisimova didn't respond immediately. She read the messages, saved them, and placed her phone on the nightstand. She lay in bed, listening to the hum of Manhattan outside her window. For hours, she stared at the ceiling, replaying the final in her mind. Every missed forehand, every Sabalenka roar, every cheer that seemed to fade too soon. But the words from Coco and Jessica lingered like quiet lanterns in the dark. You belong here. Finals are beginnings. For the first time that night, Amanda allowed herself to believe that maybe losing the final wasn't the end of her story. It was proof that she had finally returned to it. Chapter 4. The Web of Rivalry and Friendship. Tennis, unlike most sports, is both fiercely individual and strangely communal. You play alone, you win alone, you lose alone. And yet, your rivals are also your peers, your companions through airports, locker rooms, endless flights, and lonely nights. For Coco, Amanda wasn't just a competitor, she was a compatriot, another young American carving her way through the expectations of a country still longing for another Serena. Their battles had been fierce, but beneath them was mutual recognition. For Pegula, Amanda represented the bridge between generations. Pegula had seen prodigies rise and fall, but Amanda's story, marked by tragedy with the loss of her father, by battles with injuries, resonated deeply. Pegula admired her for still standing. These messages were not empty gestures. They were the unwritten code of the women's tour. We fight each other, but we lift each other too. Chapter 5. The Media Storm. By the next morning, news of the messages had already surfaced. Journalists wrote about the unity of American women's tennis. Social media flooded with posts praising Gauff and Pegula for their grace. Class acts. One headline read, "American sisterhood stronger than ever," another proclaimed. But for Amanda, the noise didn't matter. What mattered was that in her lowest moment, her peers had reached for her, not with judgment, but with love. Chapter 6. The Shared Wounds of Greatness. Each of these women carried scars. Gauff carried the scars of expectation, the weight of being called the next Serena at 15. Every defeat felt like a betrayal of the hype. But she kept playing, kept learning, and eventually won her own slam. Pegula carried the scars of invisibility. Overshadowed by younger stars and more glamorous names, she fought for recognition with patience and persistence. Her breakthroughs were quieter, but no less powerful. Anisimova carried scars carved by grief. Losing her father and coach as a teenager nearly ended her career. Stepping back from tennis to heal, she was unsure if she'd ever return. To stand in the U.S. Open final was not just sport, it was resurrection. The messages weren't just sympathy. They were echoes of their own journeys. Chapter 7. Fans and Futures. For fans, The sight of Coco, Jessica, and Amanda woven together by empathy was more than a moment. It was a vision of women's tennis as a community of resilience. In a sport too often obsessed with winners and losers, this exchange reminded the world that defeat can unite as much as victory. That champions are not only measured by trophies, but by the way they honor the game and each other. The big three, Sabalenka, Swiatek, Gauff, might dominate headlines, but the stories of Amanda and Jessica reminded everyone that tennis is deeper than rankings. It is about survival, connection, and the courage to keep walking back on court. Chapter 8. Amanda's Reply. 2 days later, Amanda finally replied. She didn't post it publicly. She sent it privately, the way their messages had come to her. Coco, Jess, thank you. I didn't know how much I needed to hear that until